Okay, I haven't done this for a while, but I wanted to see why we celebrated Valentine's Day as being so, all about love. I think it was point. Now, growing up, we heard about the St. Valentine's Day massacre, and that's why we celebrate St. Valentine's Day. But it never sat right. If St. Valentine's Day was about the St. Valentine's Day massacre, why is it all about love? You know, um, so, I did a bit of research. And I came across the origin of St. Valentine's Day and the reason why it's actually all about love. Although, to be the reality of it is that's not really how it started. It was never about love, and these really lovey-dovey feelings and being happy, jolly, loving couples, and all these happy emojis and the love hearts, and it was never about that either. The one thing I did see is that it was never all about that either. Shock horror. Yeah, it was a lot closer to that side of life, but it was never about any of that either. Yeah. Um, but it wasn't this awful massacre either. Yeah, there is a fine line. There wasn't this. Oh, this is so beautiful. It was such a loving time. No, 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 no. Absolutely not. And it wasn't bloody. Well, it was a bit bloody, but it wasn't this awful massacre. And it wasn't this lovey-dovey, oh, so beautiful holiday either. No, that was us. We did that. We did that. Chaucer and Shakespeare did that. It wasn't the reality of it all. It started actually as lapercalia in Rome. Now, lapercalia, I don't know if I'm actually pronouncing that right, but it's actually spelled Lupercalia, lapercalia. And it traces its origins back to Rome in 6 BCE. Yeah, and it was celebrated on the 15th of February. Yeah. Now, they celebrated this in a cave, in the cave called the Lupercal Cave. The Lupercal Cave, Lupercil, Lupercal Cave. Anyway, and they chose this place because in their mythology, this was where Romulus and Remus were nourished by the she-wolf. Okay, now, the Lupercalia was all about fertility and purification. It was celebrated every year. And what happened was the Luperci, the priests, that's what they were called. It was a group of priests called the Luperci. They sacrificed a goat and a dog. There was sacrifice, of course there were sacrifices, because why wouldn't there be sacrifices? And then the knife in which they used to sacrifice this dog and this goat, they dipped it in the blood, and then there were 2 men that were chosen. I don't know how they were chosen, but they were chosen men, and they were naked, and this knife that they had dipped in the blood of their sacrifices, they smeared it on the forehead of these chosen men that were naked, right? Now, bearing in mind, all of them were naked. How they chose these 2 men, I have no idea, but they chose 2 men, and they smeared the blood on their forehead. And then they took a piece of wool and they dipped it in milk and they wiped off the blood. Yeah. After this had all happened, they had a huge feast. It was a sacrificial feast. They had the sacrificial feast. And then they took the goat's hide and they turned it into whips, where men then ran around naked, right? So it's like I said, they were all naked, right? Even the women were naked. Everybody ran around naked and they whipped the women. Now, the women loved this. They actually did love it, because if they got whipped by these men with these goat hide whips, it meant that they increased their fertility for the next year. So women actually put themselves in the path of these whips on purpose to increase their fertility. So they actually really enjoyed being whipped. I mean, think of this as the start of BDSM. Whip me. I mean, begging to be whipped. These women begged to be whipped. They actually were begging to be whipped. You know, because if they got whipped, it increased their fertility. At least that's what they believed. They actually believed that if these men whipped them with these goat hide whips, it would increase their fertility. So, yeah. So it was rather fun for them. You can almost imagine how that happened and what kind of things happened next. I'm really not going to go into that bit. Yeah. Now, this ritual happened for hundreds and hundreds of years, until we get to Emperor Claudius the Second, who executed 2 different Valentines. We get to Christianity, right? And Emperor Claudius II executed 2 different Valentines on February the 14th. Do understand that at this point, lapercalia is still going on. And we're now hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years in the future. And Emperor Claudius II, and we have Christianity going on as well at this point. So 2 Valentines, different years, same day, 14th of February. And then all of a sudden we get to Pope Claudius. I can't pronounce his name. It's not Claudius, it's Gellius. I don't know. Anyway, he gets really muddled in the 5th century. He's around in the 5th century, he gets really muddled. He can't remember which Valentine was martyred in which year. So he lumps them both together in the 5th century and combines them to make St. Valentine's Day on the 14th of February. And what he does is he bans Lupercalia. He just bans it. In 494 CE, bans it. He bans all pagan rituals at that point, and that's it. It's over. It's done. I said it was Goliath. Anyway, this Pope, he bans everything, right? But what he does do is then on the 14th of February, we have St. Valentine's Day. Now, he's banned pagan rituals and sacrifices, but what he does do is he keeps the fun part of lapercalia. Only he insists that Christians remain clothed. So, instead of it being practically an orgy, it becomes a drunken ball. Pretty much. Everyone remains clothed. They all get drunk. It's still all about, fertility and whatever else, but they all have to keep their clothes on. Yeah, figure that one. But at the same time this is going on, you have a Norman celebration, and it's called Gallatin Day. And Gallatin Day is called, if you translate that, it's the lover of women. Yeah. So they combine it. So you've got this drunken brawl going on, you've got Gallatin Day going on. It all happens on the 14th of February. So what do you get realistically? Nothing more than, well, the same thing that was happening before, only there's no whips, there's no sacrifices. Yeah, you take out all the pomp and ritual and the sacrifices and all the like naked, people running around, and they do it all in private, and they do it all, behind closed doors where nobody can see. You make it a little bit more, bit like how it is now. Yeah, private. Yeah. So pretty much how it is now. Only everyone's drunk. So, and we're talking about a time when, women were probably paid more as well, and if they were all drunk, not so much consent going on either. Yeah, you can imagine it all. I know you can. Anyway, so that all kind of combined until we get to, Chaucer and Shakespeare, when they all romanticised it in poems and sonnets and plays. And then in the Middle Ages, we get things like cards, handmade cards that became tokens of, affection and things like that in the Middle Ages. You're courting a girl, give her a Valentine's Day card, So, and then we get to 1913. And all of a sudden we've got, Hallmark turns up in America, and they start commercialising cards for Valentine's Day. And it kind of just goes from there. So you then get what we have today. This whole commercialised Valentine's Day, where men feel the need to spend thousands, hundreds and thousands on their women to make them feel like they are loved, when the reality of it is they really don't need it. If you actually care about each other, surely that's all that matters. I do not see the point of spending hundreds of thousands of pounds on each other when actually that's not what matters. But we've commercialised it so much that it's what's expected of us. Honestly, no. And frankly, I'd be really, really pissed off if somebody spent a load of money on me just to say they liked me. I'd be like, fuck off. I really would. I'd tell them to fuck off and take their shit with them. I'm not interested. I don't like it. I think it's cheap tat. I don't need to be bought. And any woman who feels the need to be bought isn't worthy of anyone. She isn't. If a man feels the need that he has to buy his woman, or if a woman feels the need to have to buy her man, they're not worthy. You shouldn't have to buy each other to let them know they care about each other. You shouldn't. You just shouldn't have to. It's just ridiculous to me. But that's my opinion. And I'm sure you've all got your opinions. I think buying each other is pathetic and worthless and quite frankly, disgraceful. But that's my opinion. You all have your opinions. So that is why today we all celebrate Valentine's Day the way we do. It's because Lapercalia started it. Anyway, I'm going to go. Bye-bye.